Welcome. We are live. We are live. Welcome to another day of getting to self-actualization with Yashika Foster. And if this is your first time here on my little small part of this here internet called Hood Parenting on YouTube, please let me know you're here by commenting, liking, share, or subscribing, or doing whatever you need to do to let me know you're here, okay? But today we are still continuing on with the Getting to Self-Actualization series. All right. And today is 8/18. Okay. Now this series is a 28-day series. But however, you do not have to watch all the episodes in order, right? You can watch them out of order. You can only watch the ones that you feel apply to you, the ones that you feel that you're going to get the most benefit from. The titles are on each one of them, right? You'll notice the description of them. You'll notice that all of them are up under the series because they all have the same banner. Okay, today, day 18, right? We are talking about, or excuse me, day 19. Today is day 19. We are talking about stop performing for people who ain't watching. Ooh, right? Stop performing for people who ain't watching. Okay. This is one of those things where it's almost like code switching. Okay. Code switching is something I think about when I think about performing. Okay. Code switching, or what they say, getting along to get along, right? Or adjusting to get along. It's something like that. But I think about code switching, right? People have this thing that in order for you to be in their space, in their room, right, you have to prove your worth, right? Who said that? I want to know who said that. Who said that? Because here's how I view any room that I go to. I don't go into a room thinking that, hey, I want to be noticed when I walk in. I go into a room and know that I belong in that room. I don't care if listen, I have been in audiences or crowds of people where I was the only one. I'm talking like, I don't care what it is, whether it was the only Black person, the only Black female, the only woman, like it doesn't matter. I've been in situations where I was the only one. Okay. And I didn't give two shits. I didn't care what was going on. I didn't care what anybody thought because I knew that regardless, I belonged in that room. And the more and more they talk, regardless of the room they was in, I realized that it was time for me to elevate the room because some of them people in some of them rooms I was in. But we're not gonna go there though. But but anyway, a lot of people want us to prove our worth in a relationship, work, or even in family dynamics. Okay, it's almost like, what do you bring to the table? Okay, so I know for me, growing up in the hood was one of those things that I believe that when I would go to certain rooms, like even when I first joined the military, right? It was one of those things where they automatically put you in a category. It didn't matter what you did, it didn't matter how you showed up. Listen, your records could speak. You could have records in your hand. You had to get to a unit and show them or prove to them that you was who you say you were, and then try to do certain things that lived up to it. Give you an example. The military have this thing where, at least back when I was in, okay, because I've been retired now. We are on year 9, going into year 10. Okay, I just hit year 9, so I've been out for a long time. Okay, policies and change, requirements and change. Listen, everything done changed in the 9 years I've been out. But what I will say is, there was a time where when you got to a unit in the military, they judged you on your PT, the physical fitness. All right, PT. I know you guys don't know PT, physical training. So back then, I know there's like many exercises now, but back then you're required to do 3 exercises: the push-ups, the sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. Okay, you had 2 minutes to do push-ups, you had 2 minutes to do your sit-ups, and then your 2-mile run was timed, and depending on your age, it determined what your pass and what your pass rate would be, or what your max will be. In other words, by the time I retired at the age of 43, I believe for me to get 100% in my run, I want to say I had to run my run in like 17 minutes, something like that. I can't remember, like 2 miles in 17 minutes. However, I would always run faster than that, maybe 15, 15 and a half. So for me, that will automatically be 100 plus points in my running category. Now I will go to the rest and max those out too. But again, well, anyway, people would judge you by, your PT score. So me being a double minority, I am a Black woman. I am a Black woman, which means that when I came to a unit, regardless of how physically fit I may appeared, regardless of how, whatever, I did not prove my worth until I was put into a formation to run, right? They didn't see you until you was put into a formation to run. Okay. And what's crazy about it is by me being a muscular woman, a bigger woman, I've always been taped in the army. And what that means is that my body weight has always exceeded the maximum. I think by the time I retired, my maximum weight that I could weigh was like 164 pounds or something like that. And by the time I retired, I was like 174. And so I never failed within that bracket. And so because of that, I had to do a tape test, which is when they measured certain parts of your body to see was you balanced. And I've always passed that, never had an issue with it. But for the most part, they wanted you to be very, very straight up and down. And that wasn't where most people were. Okay. Well, with that being said, when it came time for the PT test or the run, because I was already I looked bigger, right? I was a bigger woman or huskier. I think that's the word they use, husky. Okay, husky. I was a husky woman. Then they would assume that I couldn't run. It wasn't, regardless, it was like, okay, we see her scores from other units, but we don't know yet. We don't believe it. It might be something that was falsified. Let's see what she can do. So once you went out there and run, it's like you had to prove your worth, regardless of the type of soldier you were. I remember as a young soldier, there were soldiers that were, before I became an officer, there were soldiers that was doing bad stuff, going out, getting DUIs and stuff like that. But you know what they would say? But they can run though. They can do some PT. It was like, if you was good at PT negated everything else that you did. And so I can honestly say that the military is one of those places that when it comes to proving your worth, you had to do that every day. You had to do it every day, and depending on what you look like, and I'm gonna tell you, there's a structure. I don't care who says anything different, there's a structure. Y'all already know who is at the top, the WASP, WASP. That's at the top. Up under that is his woman. Okay. Up under that is men that would probably date me, Black men, right? Black men, minority men. Okay. Then after that is me. All right. Or all the other people that wasn't falling into those other categories. That's how it went. That's how it was. And so you always had to prove your worth. But what I recognize is that a lot of times when we were doing that, right? Was it because people were watching because they wanted to judge themselves according to you? Or is they wanted to know if they had to step up, right? And that's what you need to be cognizant of. If someone is watching you, right? And this is why you have to stop trying to perform for people who are not watching you. If you come into a room and a person is like, okay, well, I'm just going to assume, let's use the PT one, for example, when I was in the military. When I come into a unit, right? People are going to assume that by me being a husky, a woman, and Black, that I was going to suck at physical fitness, right? So they will automatically take me and put me over here, which in their mind, that elevated them higher than me. How, you know what I mean? So what would end up happening was once they realized that I was what we call a PT stud. I was a PT stud, which means that I would always max my PT test. Not in the beginning when I came in, but maybe after year 8, moving forward for 17 years, I would always max my PT test. So once they realized that I could not be put into this category, that they automatically wanted to put me in because it meant that I was less, right? Because remember, you were judged on your ability to do PT in a lot of ways, right? Regardless of however you were anywhere else, you was judged on that. And I'm gonna give you another story about that in a minute. So when they realized that you are not, or you can do PT and you're not what they thought you were, now they got to find something else to try to bring you down, right? And again, you're still trying to prove your worth, right? And what I will say to you is this: in situations like that, you will forever try to prove your worth to people that's not even worth you proving your worth to. I mean, I know I said the word worth many times in a sentence, but they're not even worth it, because those people are trying to minimize you to make themselves look better, right? That's all they're doing, trying to do. Minimize you to make themselves look better. I'm gonna give another example. I remember one of my last jobs before I retired from the military. I worked at a schoolhouse. Okay. And I know for a fact that when it came to my PT score, I had the highest one of probably all the cadre. Okay, especially in my section, right? I was always in school. I was doing a lot of mentorship and things like that. Okay, I was an instructor, so I taught things that was pertaining to the curriculum. Right, it was officers that were coming to be, there was young officers coming into the military, and they had to learn their job, and so they came to us to be able to advance to become a commander. Right, so it was called Captain's Career Course back then. Well, anyway, I had a supervisor who would he knew all these things when it came to the PT, when it came to the mentorship, when it came to just all around, just straight. I was a good soldier. I was an amazing soldier. I was a knowledgeable. Okay. I had been a truck driver all my life, right? I was a logistics officer. Okay. When it came for my rating on my OERs, he said to me, because I did not know what is it? What is it? Call to fire or something like that. Like I didn't know enough about infantry. So because of that, he rated me less than what I should have gotten, because it was like, well, these guys over here are better than you because they know infantry. Wait a minute, this is not an infantry school. This is a captain's career course, which means everybody that come through here are logistics officers, or they're logistics officers, because it was the logistics officers captain career course, which means that they may go to a unit that does infantry, but that's not the primary reason for this course. This course is to make them well-rounded. But he needed a reason to discredit me because he knew that everything else was amazing. He knew that everything else was amazing, right? But in his mind, what can I pull on her to say it? And this is a true story. And so when I think about stuff like that, you will always be trying to prove yourself to people that listen, they're looking for something. They're looking for a reason. Because when I came to those units, a lot of times, no matter what I did, I already had strikes against me. Being a woman, being black, right? I already had strikes against me. So proving myself wasn't gonna do it. So what I needed to do, and this is what I would tell anybody, is to do what you supposed to do. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, sharp, dress right, dress. It doesn't have to be any of those things, right? But you have to do what need to do to make yourself elevate. So for me, being a PT stud, which they didn't know this, had nothing to do with the fact that I wanted to be amazing when I showed up in a unit. Because if they had to ask me my motivation behind my ability to do PT so well, I would have explained it to them. It had nothing to do with me wanting to be a superhero when it came to PT. It was because I had my own body issues. And so, because I had my own body issues, because I've always wanted to be a size zero, a size two, whatever, right? So if a person always desires to be that particular size, then what are they going to do? They're going to be really good at exercising. They're going to exercise a lot. They're going to be good at, just making sure they do things. So for me, exercise or PT was one of those ways that I would help that I used to help me maintain my weight. All right. And so I joined the army literally by the time I joined the army and the time I retired 25 years later, there was only about a 2 or 3 pound difference in what I weighed. And so there's not too many people that can say that, because I knew that I had to do certain things and maintain certain things. And when I stepped on the scale this morning, I was only 6 pounds from that weight. So I always stay within, like I say, a 10-pound radius. And it's been like that since I was 17, 18. But they didn't know that. So for me, I had been so when they looked at me as being husky, because I didn't fit into a tape test, my weight test, I had to be taped. I already knew that. Listen, y'all didn't know that I used to be a power lifter. Y'all didn't know that I did shot put and disc throw. Y'all didn't know that I used to do these things, right? Like, you didn't know these things, but they didn't care to ask, because in their mind, I was going to be discredited no matter what. So when we talk about explaining how self-actualization is to ban us to unlearn applause addictions, stop seeking praise and start honoring purpose. So for me, I didn't give two craps about what they thought about me. Did I know those things were there? Absolutely. Did I know I would be judged on PT? Absolutely, because it's a good old boy system and you can't change anybody's mind. But what I knew also is that it was about me. because I wanted to make sure that I was good at the things that I could control. The things that I can be good at, I was good at them, right? And it was just that simple. If infantry was something that I needed to learn because I went to an infantry unit, then trust me, I would have been good at that too. I would have been good at call to fire. But at that point, it was never anything within my 19, 20 years, because I think I was at 20, 21 years at that point, that I had been in any type of unit I had been in where infantry or call to fire was a mandatory. I'm a woman. Why do I? Anyway, that's something different. But I wanted to share a story, right? the laugh with the shoulders. But I wanted to share a story about when we talk about performing for people who ain't even watching. They're watching, but they're watching to try to discredit you. That's why you have to always make sure that you do what you need to do to be your best self. All right. You got to remember, you are not a stage play. You a whole force, all right, a whole experience. Okay. So don't be auditioning for folks who don't even show up. Don't be auditioning for folks where their opinion about you don't even matter. Okay. So when you ask yourself these questions, when you think about this, ask yourself these questions, reflect on this. Who are you performing for? Because sometimes we all do it, right? We perform, even in dating. Sometimes people will show they'll show you a facade when they show up. Their representative will show up, right? And then once you start dating that person more, you realize that, oh my God, this isn't who I thought I was dating. Because why? A lot of times people representatives show up because they're performing. So ask yourself, who are you performing for? What would you change if you stopped needing to be understood and just started being free? Okay, because again, you got to understand, you got to figure out what is the purpose for you. For me, being a size 2 or trying to be slim was always my motivation. So if it was anything dealing with any type of physical activity or working out or anything where I could burn calories, oh, I was in it. Okay, but they didn't know that about me. They didn't care to know that about me. All they knew was, okay, well, you know what, let's find something else. And so when they look for it, they'll find something. Why? Because okay. But what I will say is, for us, for you, being self actualized means that you get to do what you want to do in this life. Be the person that you are meant to be. Be the person that you know that is your purpose in this world. So when it's all said and done, that's what you leave behind. That is what you leave behind, those things, right? Whether it's you leave them in somebody you taught, someone you raised, whatever, you leave those things behind to those people because that's what your purpose was here on earth. So self-actualization is something that everybody should aim for. Literally aim for. That way you can walk this earth and know that you are living in your divine purpose. And so, listen, if you are ready to get self actualized and you are looking for a self actualized coach, go ahead and DM me and say, hey, Yashika, I'm ready. Okay. A self actualization coach is a life strategist. For those who are saying, okay, I never really heard the word, it's a life strategist. How do you get to be the best person you're supposed to be walking in your purpose in this life? Life strategy. How do we clear out all these other things that's in front of us so that we can be able to do this? Some of these things that's in front of us are our thoughts, our beliefs, and some of these things are not even our own, right? Some of these things are struggles. Some of these things are holding on to old things. It's different type of things. And the thing that's about me, that's beautiful about me, is that I use my counseling as well as my coaching in one. All right. So if you are ready to be self-actualized and you lead a life strategist, go ahead and DM me and say, Ashika, I am ready. All right. And we are continuing on with this series of getting to self-actualization. And again, if this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you. Go ahead and leave a comment. And if you feel inclined to do so, go ahead and subscribe and share. And maybe somebody in your life that you know that needs to hear these videos. Okay. And I will catch you guys in the next video. But just like I always say, once you, and another thing, if you're not sure yet, you can do a 15-minute consultation with me, right? A 15-minute consultation. The appointment is in this up somewhere top below, somewhere like that in this video. Once you talk to me, you're going to be like, you know what? I did not know I needed someone who has sunshine and glitter that will give me sunshine and glitter every day. And you're going to want to work with me. Trust me when I tell you you're going to want to work with me because you're not going to know you needed me. You're like, I didn't know I needed sunshine and glitter every day. You do because that's what I bring. All right. So go ahead and DM me and go ahead and make your consultation appointment. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.